there's a lot of people that have tried to package up, well, if you do this, and this, then you've nailed leadership. And I think we need to get our heads around the fact there's no such thing as the perfect leader. And if we look for like the cookie cutter approach, we're going to cause ourselves a problem. We're going to end up with very average leaders, and different people will excel in different ways. So I think when it comes to the skill set of a leader, the answer is yes. There'll be different things for different people that will apply in different contexts. So you can say, for example, Elon Musk, wow, utterly visionary, but there's a lot more to leadership than that. So falling down in some areas, great in others. I would actually argue that the fundamental thing that really, the foundation, if you like, that sets up a great leader is somebody who does it without ego. I would argue that rule number one of leadership is it's not about you. And I think when you get that as a starting point, then you've got the right foundation for being a good leader. It's not all about your ideas. It's not all about your solution. It's not all about your way of doing things. And it's certainly not about your ego. When you get that clear, then actually you've set the right foundation for being a good leader. There's other things that would follow, but I would say that's exactly where it starts.
So out of those 4 leaders, which one operates without an ego?
Well, I think that's a really interesting question.
The 4 male leaders in there. Yeah, I think it's interesting. We just had a comment as well on, I'll bring it up on screen. So Vanessa, hi Vanessa, I know she watches quite a few of our shows and enjoys them. So currently reading the bio for Elon Musk. Disappointed about some of the behavior and part of his personality, but it's impressive what he's achieved. And I think, certainly when you look at a lot of those, they definitely have that. And this was kind of something that was brought up in our previous show as well. We had Helena Bosky, and I'll come back to that in a little bit because I want to talk to you a little bit about that. But Julia, did you have anything that you wanted to add in terms of what characteristics you feel make a good leader from the research perspective?
Yeah. I'm actually very hopeful for leaders. I'm very hopeful that you can learn the skills. So I've done a study which has been published with Harvard Business Review, and what we did, we looked exactly at this empowering leadership style. So we looked at leaders who use actually coaching skills, which go exactly in this way, like listening, questioning, giving feedback, and so on. And I would say the key, well, there are lots of key takeaways, but one is, I think you're gonna achieve if you have the capability to self-reflect. So when we first, I can give you a little bit of a very short version of the study. So we put managers together, and we let them, we just gave them the instruction, please coach the other person in a 5-minute conversation. And without any further explanation what to do, just, because that's actually the reality in a lot of organizations that, I heard coaching is great. Can you please start coaching your team a bit more? And then, leaders go and do that. So anyway, so they had these conversations, and we videotape them, and we let them evaluate them by themselves, by other peers, by colleagues, and then also by coaching experts, so people who have been working for a long time in the field and have been, trained many years in coaching. And interesting enough, so when the peers, so the colleague watched the video the first time around, they said, "Oh, this looks great. This is good coaching. Wonderful." And so when the experts looked at it, they were like, maybe not so much. Then we put the leaders through a training workshop. So we actually showed them the skills, we explained it, and they practiced a lot, they got feedback and so on. And then we let them redo the conversation with another person, and so they engaged, and they saw, they were, improving in a very short amount of time and a lot of skills. But the most interesting fact I found was we let them also re-evaluate the first video. So now that they had the knowledge and then they had some skills in how to do it, they watched the videos again, and they were able to say, okay, actually, now that I'm seeing this, I can say that what my colleague did was not really that great. They were, what they often did was motivational micromanaging. So they went in and they said, yeah, why don't you try and do this? And why don't you go and do this? So they were very, with a lot of oomph, but they were still trying to solve the issue for the other person. Whereas if you go in with a coaching approach, you really let them arrive at their own solution and let them, let them implement it. So for me, the biggest takeaway, besides that, I'm very happy that leaders can learn the skills. So there's really hope. I mean, it's easier for some than for others. Was that they are also able to self-reflect and to say, okay, hold on, I can see, what I was doing was not right. And I think if you have that ability to do that, then you can do and achieve amazing things, because it's not about getting it right the first time. It's about looking at it, learning from your mistakes, and then trying again. So you don't have to be perfect to be a leader. You just have to be willing to learn.
Interesting.
I love that. And also, I think to add to that, this is why I get so excited about leadership for the digital age, because you just said you recorded it, then they could watch it back, right? So one of the things I'm often playing around with in my mind is, we all want people to self-reflect and become really self-aware. And actually, one of the best tools that you could do is video yourself. It's the ultimate cringe thing when you have to watch it, but then you start to actually see and refine. And actually, maybe, if you had snippets during the day where you actually had video of you reflecting. I'm not saying video for everyone, but I just think there's so many interesting digital tools and ways to develop people. And I think that the thing all the leaders we discussed, whether you like them or not, they all are exceptional learners. And I don't think that's changing. I think you have to be an extraordinary learner to be a great leader, because then you're learning all the time. You might not be learning the right things, but they definitely are learning. And I feel like there's a huge opportunity with digital tools and technology to almost accelerate that self-reflection and to really think about, how to get that self-awareness with people.
That's really interesting. Do you think, because there's actually a very similar theme in the things that each of you said there, do you think then, from what you're saying, Ilona, that you think that's changed from, say, Jack Welch's era and 20, 30, 40 years ago? Do you think that this sort of what we consider to be a great business leader now is different to what it was prior to the digital age?
Well, I think you can have amazing business leaders in different ways, firstly. So, I would argue Cardi B is an amazing business leader, because she makes money not just through her records, but through content and building a fan base and using OnlyFans to monetize her backstage content and this sort of stuff. And other sort of entrepreneurs that are using digital tools and technology to just almost leverage things like that. And I think because in Jack Welch's day, or with leaders of massive organizations, and I used to work in one too, it's generally the top sort of levels that receive this leadership development training or coaching or that extra support to help them drive the growth of the business. But actually, with these tools and with what we have available to us, we can all accelerate that development. So we can all become better at our own sort of situational awareness and self-awareness. And I think that's really interesting. I mean, we haven't even started to explore digital communication yet, but these are things I think that are having a shift, because it's not just about physically being in the same room. It's about how can you transmit yourself as a leader in a virtual world. And I actually think, Elon Musk does a great job of that, because his PR machine is constant. So you know what's going on, and at least you're all aware of him, and he's very, very well followed, and he's constantly twittering. So it's interesting, these different nuances, I think, that are a bit more complicated. Whereas, not that long ago, but it's it was just the newspaper. That's how you found out about your leaders. Now you can check now and just see what's the latest tweet.
Yeah, and I think obviously if you think about, sorry, Peter, just the former president of the free world, became president basically probably via Twitter as much as anything else, and was able to kind of have a lot of people follow his leadership into the biggest job arguably in the world. So it's definitely different. Sorry, Peter, you were going to say something.
Well, no, you beat me to it, to be honest, because and he's a classic example of somebody who didn't get rule number one. And actually, he didn't get rule number two either, because he thought it was everybody else who needed to change and he didn't need to make any changes. And if you go back to what Julia was saying, I couldn't agree more. If you've got leaders who are able to self-reflect, and rather than thinking, well, this is how everybody else needs to change and this is how they all need to get their act together, actually, what do I need to do differently in order to get different results from other people? That is very much, you're getting to the real essence of leadership.